We're now going to turn our attention to the new reality of deal-making for our next panel discussion. Joining us again is Elaine Green and her panellists. Elaine, over to you.
Thanks a lot. Just to introduce myself again, I'm Elaine Green. I'm the editor of the EMEA Bureaus, and it's lovely to see everyone again. A lot of familiar faces on the panel that we've seen in other years at these events when we've been able to see you in person, but we are very pleased that so many people were able to join us in the audience today. And we're looking forward to a lively session about the new reality of deal making. We're all a part of that in the new post reality of the COVID-19 situation. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce some of the panelists who are going to talk about the new reality of deal making in this environment. So over first of all to Ileana from Wolf Eyes.
Hello everyone, a pleasure to be here. I'm Ileana Glodeanu. I'm a partner in the regional law firm Wolf Eyes. I'm based in Bucharest. I head the corporate M&A practice here. I'm also a board member in several asset management and energy companies. I have been doing M&A transactions for 20 years across sectors, both in Romania and in the region.
Thanks very much. And Tomek.
Hi, hello. I'm Tomasz Kwiecień, Tomek. I'm with OEX, a public company that is an outsourcer. It specializes in retail services for customers in traditional retail and outsource services, but also in e-commerce services. So we are the ones who are doing the job in the background.
Thanks very much. Over to Gosia now to introduce herself. And Gosia, feel free to say a little bit more on a personal level as well as professional level about how the new ways of working are beginning to affect you or have been affecting you indeed most of the year since March. So over to you, Gosia, for the introduction.
Thank you very much. I'm with the Polish Development Fund of Funds since 2016. We are focusing on corporate venturing. We are a little bit distorting mirror here in Poland since we have accessible capital as an investor, as a fund of funds. We have 5 fund of funds, 6 fund of funds, and for instance, our private equity fund of funds now is in UK, talking with some private equity fund managers who are very happy to talk with us, bearing in mind that we are not very known country and investor. This is for us a lucky moment in terms of lack of fundraising and the slowdown on this segment. In terms of COVID, in my personal life, being mother of 3 kids, I'm still very afraid of another lockdown in terms of adapting and connecting the work life and school life. I'm expert 1-3 subjects now after March. So this is something which actually scares me a little bit. In terms of my professional life, I think I'm more effective and I have more discipline. And I have this feeling that I can work more effectively and I can do many things simultaneously. So this is something I discovered working online in 80% of my time.
Thanks very much, Gosia, and thanks for those personal insights also. I think, you know, it's quite an experience for everyone to have to remotely work, but in terms of European tech M&A, you know, we've seen that's perhaps been where the biggest impact has been. 17.7% of deal count so far this year, showing that the tech sector is more important than ever to enable yourselves as deal makers and all of us to be able to reach out. And I'd like to move on now to look about what the new technologies are that have disrupted the M&A advisory community. And some of them have been around for a while, and some of them are new. For example, being able to do due diligence online is not a new thing, but there are some new tools as well, like Zoom that we're on now, that are changing our lives. So over to Matt to give us your views on that and how it's personally and professionally affecting you, the new technology tools and how they're disrupting the M&A process.
Well, like you said, some of the tools have been with us for a long time, because virtual data rooms have been here, since already a couple of years. What changed, I think, was really the fact that we tend to use video much more these days than, 5 years ago. Normally you would hop on a conference call and just, use all these dials, and people would dial in from all over the place. Right now we just have video calls. Actually at OEX, we had a unique opportunity to do the deal during the lockdown and after the lockdown, because in early April we were approached by the company called IPOS, and at the end of August we just completed the deal. So in April, May, June, July, and August we were just busy doing the deal. So video conferencing was very helpful. We also used virtual data rooms, so all the data with us and with the advisors was shared somewhere in the cloud. But still, my sort of conclusion is that, we always wanted to have some physical meetings. So I wouldn't say that from my point of view, at least my experience, there wasn't a lot of disruption really, because we had many video calls, but then many times in the deal process, we were reaching the point that we were just sitting on our side and saying, okay, we just need to meet these guys, really meet them, face to face. And after the lockdown restrictions were lifted, this is what we did basically. So on a limited basis, and taking care of all the precautions and things like that. So basically, we were meeting, and actually we had a couple of these meetings. Also, we were just waiting for the right moment to have a site visit, just to visit a place where some kind of equipment is being produced, because we couldn't imagine just sending some robots there or drones and just seeing the place on a TV screen. So I think my conclusion will be that we are more sort of willing to use video, and right now this will be probably a major a way to communicate especially in the early phases of the deal. But later, you will not be able to replace the physical contact, because at the end of the day, the deal making is about trust. Whether we trust each other, and you really want to sit down and look people straight in the eye and, have this very, personal relationship. And like we discussed earlier, very often you make deals while going to a dinner or have beer. So we are not that advanced yet. So to disrupt basically going out for a beer.
Absolutely. It's often those sideline networking opportunities. And like we've had the networking, which I hope all of the audience enjoyed in the break, that are as important as the hard and fast negotiations. As you say, it's where you build up the trust. And without those, it can be more difficult. Ileana, have you found that you slowed down despite the use of tools like this in the deal making during the lockdown period? And what in a way new innovations do you think will stay also with the new world, as it were, post-COVID? Has your experience reflected the same as Tomak's?
Very much so. Indeed, I had a similar experience. So while we were all used to virtual data rooms and some other technological applications that we used for transactions on a daily basis, I think what changed a bit was the perception that we had over technology, because for some transaction in recent days, technology was a game changer. We did have so there are apps which we have used during lockdown. Or let's say we have had remote closings during lockdown, but which we hope not to use again, or not to be so widely used in the future. So, for example, just to give some background to this, we had in March during lockdown, we had closing, and we had to do an inventory, and of course no one could travel, and therefore we used some remote devices and the local people on the ground basically helped to do the inventory. Site visits, there are obviously some apps for site visits. It is really, as Thomas said, it is really in M&A eventually about really personal experiences. So you have to be able to see that site yourself, or to know the people personally in order to do a deal. So our experience was that, of course, we have used, for example, we have seen most of the management presentations were remote, where we used video for that, and we scheduled expert meetings also with video. But we would, for obvious reasons, I think in the future, especially for deals that we need to close in a short period of time, or for various other reasons, we would need to use less of these tech benefits, and rather, let's say, go to the classical meetings in person, as it was. For example, our case, we have, I'm currently involved in a very large transaction. It's a hundreds of millions euro transaction. And because of the tight deadlines the week before, we had people traveling from all over Europe to Bucharest for a meeting in person, because we had to really have meetings with the management, and meetings with the legal experts and other advisors, to meet in person in order to make progress and make sure that we will be able to sign this deal shortly. So that has been, in a nutshell, that has been our experience. So I think we're all benefiting from this technology. I think there have been just a few sectors where technology did not have an impact, or had little effect. But to a certain extent, technology is probably something that is not suitable for all type of jobs or for all transactions, and I think we will need to see how this will evolve in the future, whether some of these apps that we used in this period will really stay.
Thanks, Ileana. And Gosia, do you think the point about trust, being able to look someone in the eye in person or go for a beer, it can't really be replaced by a virtual app, or could we see more opportunities outside of those that we've had? Has your experience been the same as that of Ileana's?
We are operating at a slightly different markets, because VC deals are faster, quicker, and they can be quicker. However, when we negotiate the agreement, as we talked last time we met, what I observed was that during the online conversation, the trust was not built. And there were, I think, too much aggression, maybe not aggression, but sort of, yes, maybe a little bit aggressive attitude from the other side, from maybe also, you know, all sides. And when we met after lockdown, it was shocking for me how the perception changed, and what language we used, and how more careful we were using the words. I compare it to sending the text, quick text, or a message by email. That sometimes, you know, you have to read carefully what you wrote, otherwise it may be misinterpreted. And online also, I think people we have it's easier to say something quick, and it's not really the process of rethinking is not so deep as in person, as you meet in person. So this is our observation.
That's very interesting. So, I mean, you're saying on the one hand, in a way, because of the remote nature of negotiations, sometimes the deal making was more aggressive, and perhaps also because some of the new technologies are, I mean, obviously it depends which particular, a sector you're looking at, but obviously if you're looking in the sector of healthcare or tech, everybody's keen in a way to get their hands on some of those technologies. But, on the one hand, you're saying that it can speed things up and the deal making is a bit more aggressive. But on the other hand, when you came to kind of sealing the deal in person, the whole kind of body language was different, and the dialogue was different. And did you feel, therefore, that what Ileana and Tomas have been saying, that in a way there's still no replacement for that physical meeting?
Yeah, I absolutely believe that that physical meetings are needed, and it will not change in the future. There is one more aspect I found during the process of negotiation, that people we are having very tight calendars, and we want to speed up. And this, you have the meeting in Teams at 10 and another meeting at 11, and you think that you can do it, all those things in 8 hours. And sometimes, the time is very democratic thing, but it's impossible to enlarge it. So I think this is also the pressure, the tension of the time, which is lacking, and this also provokes to some behavior which is not regular when you meet people. So this is something we all in the office actually noticed. You think you can more, but you cannot. You should focus more, and do not, write hundreds of the meetings in the Teams just because it accepts it.
That's very insightful. Yeah, Tomax, would you add to that? And also, I'd be interested to hear, you mentioned before about obviously the due diligence, but what about the use of the cloud, in the different formats that's come into deal making as well?
Just one comment to what Małgosia said. I think it's funny because we have, when you start the meeting in person, then you have this sort of warm up at the beginning, and equally when you finish the meeting, you just walk someone to the reception or to the elevator, and then you have a chat and how are the kids, and and you have a nice dress and things like that. So this is a very important for the relationship building. And when you're on the call, you just push a leave button and that's it. So you said, okay, we're done, thanks, bye, boom, and it's all gone. And one thing I just noticed, that basically we are probably used to this binge watching or binge listening, as on Netflix, basically one episode is finishing, and then in 15 seconds you're just watching the next one, and once you realize it's 6 episodes past. And I think what Małgosia was saying, I noticed that with myself, that basically you try to be so smart and so time efficient, so that basically you really schedule all the calls back to back, and after 8 hours you're just exhausted and you just don't remember what happened in the morning, right? Because really you just finish at 10:59, leave and on the next call. So instead of making it more efficient, I think it's just all confusing. And also when you just have to travel around the town from meeting to meeting, then you have more time really just to think what happened and think over what was happening on the meeting. And with these calls, that's a tricky thing. I mean, you have to also know how to manage your time, because then it's really like watching 8 episodes of Netflix original series or something like that, and at the end you just don't know what happened in the first episode. And coming back to your question, I think the cloud may be something that has been here and probably will stay, but one thing I also realized is probably the signing of the documents. I mean, in Poland at least, I think we had like very, very fast adoption of the electronic signature in various forms. So was it through a secured site or through technologies that were developed? So basically, I think this is something that will stay. I mean, we didn't have it to that extent before. And after the COVID luckily is gone and no longer with us, I think the signing of the documents in a secured way electronically will stay. So probably this is one area of disruption that we discussed in the beginning.
Thanks for that. I mean, which brings me on to the next point, Ileana, quite nicely, about which changes that have happened will stay with the ways that we all work, and in particular in the M&A industry that you work. Which technologies do you think have been the most beneficial that you want to keep when hopefully all this is over?
What Tomasz said just now, I think it would be definitely a stay. This is a win for the process. We were really happy to be able to sign and close remotely, and as just said, to do inventories and do many other things remotely. I think this will be a benefit to everyone, because there will be definitely less travel and less time, spent for certain unnecessary, let's say, formalities that we used to have in M&A. I think a lot of things will be more simple. So everything will be more simple. I guess just not the transaction documents themselves, because what we see in terms of transactional documentation these days, while again tech seems to make our M&A life easier, what is not as easy as before is actually the way we do deals, meaning that processes are slower. We do have very fast conference calls on a topic, but we have more conference calls on that topic or for that transaction. And eventually, when parties really want to sign a deal, they will decide that they want to meet in person, as we agreed before. So there is definitely a certain trend, and as I was saying, it will change. We will use this technology to simplify our M&A life, but we will definitely spend more time in other directions. So more probably interaction remotely on videos. As I said, a larger number of calls for a matter which could be easier solved in person. We would need to, speaking of the new realities of deal making, we will need to agree more sophisticated terms in transactions. These days, most of our transactions have deferred purchase prices, and that means that you need to negotiate complicated earn-outs, or you need to negotiate loan notes, vendor notes, preference shares. So everything is let's say not as simple as it used to be. And therefore will change our M&A lives forever, and the process dynamics and everything else will be impacted by technology and by the new reality, let's say.
If I might just chip in, I totally agree with that, because this is what we experienced in our deal that was done during the course of summer, because normally we probably would invest an X amount of money and we would leave it like that. But because of the risk related with current environment, we decided to stage the deal. So we basically agreed, okay, instead of one tranche, we'll have 3 tranches, and then we have to address it in documentation. So instead of doing this for 2 months, we were just dealing with. So maybe, technology is making our life easier, but the reality, is making our life much harder, because you have all these scenarios that you want to address in the documentation. So this probably is also something that's going to stay with us, right? So we will probably spend much more time thinking how to address all the risks, because we know that they will be there, and they will not easily just go away.
I think
and I suppose it's a cost factor as well. Sorry, let you comment on that in a moment, Tomasz. I was saying the cost factor. I I was talking to somebody recently who said, they've saved a fortune with having to fly everybody over. Ileana mentioned everybody flying to Bucharest for the, final leg of the deal. But for earlier stages, I would imagine there's quite a saving being able to do everything online rather than flying everybody, back and forth. Has that been your experience, and also the points that you wanted to pick up on? Gosia.
Well, I wanted to say that I think we are all in the process of learning. We had all these tools before, but we didn't use them. I mean, we used them, but we were not forced to use them. Now we are a little bit lost, and we use them. We do know how use them technically, but I don't think we have a deep practice. And I hope that we will be able in the future to use them effectively and to combine real life and real meetings, as Tomek said, small talks and asking, about the kids, about what have you seen or where are you going to go? This is the question I would like to ask again on vacation. This is something which is really one of my dream. Then we ask about the holidays. So I think that that this actually might be a very good opportunity for us that will transform our attitude and will help us to be more effective and more balanced in terms of work and life. And I hope that this is the window of opportunity for people who are hard workers as us, that we also will find this, stability and life balance. This is something I'm looking for, actually.
It's interesting about the home, life balance, because in theory it should be better with remote working, but in reality we all know we end up just never switching off and working because we're here, we're working 12, 14-hour days and more. But I was very interested in your point about having the discussion about vacations, and because I know Tomek is very keen on the trust building side of it. From my personal point of view, when we have meetings with our teams of journalists, I always find it nice if somebody actually will bring the baby or the dog or a guinea pig in one case, to show us, because it's a little bit more of a reality rather than this sort of, just the camera and we're in front of it. We all know that as soon as the camera, turns off, either the children are going to be wanting attention or, the partner or the pet or whatever. So do you think, Tomasz, maybe we need to be a bit more real on some of these calls as well to build the trust?
Maybe, but I think I think a business meeting is at the end of the day a business meeting, right? And that's why you have these after-hour meetings, just to address the other side of this whole sort of arrangement and engagement, right? So I think probably yes. Today we're much used to having our kids fly behind our backs or anything happening in the background. But still, at the same time, where you're having a negotiations, and you at the end of the day negotiating a multi-million-dollar or multi-million zloty deal, then I think you just also have a certain level of seriousness involved in that. So
for sure.
It cannot be just nice and easy and in your shorts, basically just doing that, because then either you're weakening your own position or you're not being serious or regarded as a serious negotiator from the other side. So I think I don't want to call it the old reality, because I hope it does not old. It's just going to come back. But basically, the reality was that we had all these parts. So the business was business, and after our meetings, private meetings were private meetings, and of course sometimes they're interlinked. But I think it's of course we are not having ties. We are we know each other's living rooms and kitchens by now, so because of the videos and the setups. So I think it helps. It sort of it puts people closer. It just shortens the distance. But at the same time, I think you cannot be just in your Hawaiian shirt negotiating a deal with lawyers. That won't work.
Absolutely. And over to Ileana for comment there, who's got this very professional, office setup that we're all admiring, for some comments on how to balance, you know, getting a little bit of trust and personal time maybe outside of the meetings to, you know, having using the new technologies for professional, you know, online discussions and negotiations.
Thanks for the compliment, Elaine, in the first place. I have to say that you know, I second that comment that we've all been through meetings online meetings where kids were entering the room, and I attended a board meeting where one of the board members was holding his kid on the lap, and many other experience, which I am sure that all we all had. I think this should not necessarily impact our professionalism. Things like that happen. As Tomasz said, we probably have some more understanding of, you know, the others' backgrounds and constraints, family situation and everything. It's not easy, as I said, it's not easy these days. Certain people or certain jobs are more impacted by the new reality of deal making. What I want to say is that professionalism stay. We have a better understanding. I think we're more understanding to each other of the fact that someone is really trying to speak from the kitchen because in the other room there's a kid playing or screaming or something. So I think we are to a certain extent more human these days when we do deals. And I think we also miss the personal interaction, so that helps a bit when we discuss with someone on video and we see that you know, someone is sharing a familiar I don't know, a room or something, and then we say, okay, it's you know, this really helps the process. Because while you do not have the direct contact, then you cannot really speak about, you know, you cannot talk about the dress or invite someone for a beer or something. At least you see that the other person, there's more than, you know, the suit and the tie, and they do have, you know, life when they have I don't know, family photos in the background and etc. So that's where we come from. I think it's, yeah, we'll see how this whole thing will evolve.
Thanks very much. I would encourage, we've got 5 minutes or so left, just over. I would encourage the audience to ask questions or even comments also are also welcome if you want to make a comment. While we wait for other questions, yes, somebody wanted to mention something. Okay, while we wait for other questions, I have a question of my own actually, and that is regarding obviously the new technologies in terms of deals. I mean, I imagine you know, we talked a little bit about this on the panel I was on earlier today, but the new realities, the tech, the remote workings, the new you know, focus on how best to, you know, utilize situations when we have to all work remotely and so on. Are you finding that those particular deals are going faster, tech deals or, you know, online healthcare? What is your experience of that aspect of the new reality of deal making? Gosia?
If I go ahead, Gosia.
I think from my perspective, it is difficult to say. It's too early. I will be able to answer this question by the end of the year, I think, when I see the reports and statistics. The projects themselves, there are many projects which in venture capital, which are booming actually, because they are based on remote technologies, or they deliver specific data, or they are in the digitalization sector. So from the project companies' perspective, there are some which are really booming up. But answering this question with in the responsible way, I would say I think that some VC deals will be closing faster, but some of them not, especially when we have co-investments models. I can see that investors who were not committed at the beginning, creating the funds, they are wondering, and there is suspension, and we see a huge slowdown among them. So so in the co-investments models, this is a very negative impact. In commitment models, I see that there is actually speed up in some cases because everybody is looking for opportunity, better evaluations. In some cases, when you have a huge corporate as a LP, we also saw, especially during lockdown, some suspension because they decided to focus on the core business rather than M&As or venture capital.
Thank you for that. Ileana, you wanted to comment on those points. And also, I think, begin to think about what you see as the way forward for some closing points as well to make, as we've just, no questions from the audience, but it would be nice to hear a little bit more about what the future holds, as well as those comments, if you have any, on the hot sectors.
Just to say that I second what Gosia said earlier. I think we have all sort of let's say experiences with deals these days. Although we would expect in some sectors like tech or healthcare or financial services to see more deals, and we do see that. This is not the rule. So there are other sectors where we see investments and which are where we see deals happening fast. It's because a private equity fund has a certain a short deadline, a short exclusivity, and they want to get that deal done. So I would not say that it's about the sectors. I think it's more about the dry powder that is out there, and some deals are happening really fast, and some others are taking a long time to negotiate, and the process, the M&A process overall is slower. So in terms of dynamics, I think right now it's quite difficult to really do any predictions. I think we just have to be open and just to adapt. That's the most important thing to resilience, let's say, for M&A deals. And we'll see what the future holds. There's certainly there's uncertainty, let's say, regarding business forecasts and deal predictions. So from my side, I cannot really bet on tech deals or I don't know, healthcare or something. I think we will see, and we will need just to adapt to the pace of what will happen in the future.
Thank you very much for that. And we just got time for final comments from Tomasz, because we've just got 2 minutes left before we hand back over to the studios. We haven't got any questions. If you could just tell us your final insights, Tomasz.
Well, I think that maybe the technology will not accelerate the deal making. As always, it's probably will be whoever is under pressure will be more flexible to negotiate, and whoever is not under pressure then will take more time to negotiate. So I recently, one of our executives in one of our portfolio companies recently said, cash is no longer king, cash is everything. So basically, whoever has cash, then they will take a long time to negotiate whatever deal, and whoever's pockets are empty, then probably they will be under pressure to negotiate quickly and complete these, regardless of the technology involved.
Insightful points to finish with. Thank you very much to the three of you for joining us with a very honest and interesting and exciting discussion. And thank you everybody who's been listening in the audience and there in the studio for your participation. So handing back now to Julianne in the studio. Thanks again for a
Thank
great
you.
panel,
Thank
everyone.
you very much.
Thanks very much to Elaine and her panellists.